It is now the witching. It is. Oh gosh. It is now the witching hour. No, microphones are just having a little bit of a moment. It's fine. I think everybody can hear me. Welcome, members of the press, members of the public, for attending this meeting today. If I can go through the first item on the agenda, which was the previous minutes. Joe, did you run this meeting? Because I wasn't here. Okay. So I can't agree that these are true records. So if somebody can, Paul?
The minutes, yeah.
Yeah, and Joe seconded. Okay, lovely. I'll just quickly sign them. This is when you've got a really long signature. It's not useful, is it?
You don't need to worry about the microphones because they're only really for the benefit of the equipment, which I can't get to work anyway. So
switch it off.
Thank you.
Okay, so item number 2 on the agenda is declarations of interest. Does anyone, members present, have any declarations of interest? No, none. Okay, thank you very much. Move on to item 3 on the agenda, which is public question time. We have received no written public questions. Is there anything from the... No? Okay, so there's no questions. This is penciled in our diaries to last till 7 o'clock, so, you know. Okay, so item 4 on the agenda is urgent business. I have nothing which I need to add other than what is already on the agenda. Is everyone okay with that? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so we move on to item number 5 on the agenda, which is appointment of Chief Executive and Head of Paid Service. As you will have, I'm sure, read your minutes and gone through our appendixes and everything else and the recommendations. It's quite a comprehensive paper. I don't know that there's too much that's been missed out, but I'm always here to listen if you think that there should be. The actual recommendation of the committee is that the committee authorise proceedings to start the recruitment process for the appointment of a permanent chief exec and head of paid service in accordance with the job description and person specification as appended to this report. So I'll open it up to the committee to if there are any questions or anything you would like clarification on. Joe.
Yes, so I'm supportive of the recommendation, but it's a related issue that I've raised before about why it takes the council so long to recruit to senior posts. So we've known that we're going to have this vacancy for 6 months now. So it's taken 6 months just to come forward to this committee with a recommendation to recruit. And I think it's more than just an academic point. I think there's an organisational problem around recruitment and fairness. If we are always recruiting when a person has filled the interim role for a period of time, the recruitment is clearly going to take months. We may have an interim who's been in post for 9 months or even a year before we appoint. And I think that is a problem, and it looks as though it's a systemic issue. It's not a one-off. It keeps happening. And I think that's something I think this committee needs to look at, even though it's not for this particular meeting. Well,
as you know, Joe, microphone. As you know, obviously this is the employment committee, so this is something that could be raised as an item for us to look at. Councillor Stevens.
I'm just going to totally agree with what Joe said. We are, and I think it's inherent. It's something that has happened at the time after time within our local authority. It's probably we're not alone. Elsewhere it happens the same way, but we should really start to look at this a bit more in depth. I think as a committee, I take that forward. I really do. I think that it's not fair to an interim. 2, it's not fair to the senior officers and the direction that the local authority possibly would like to go. And 3, the time taken to fill a role is actually causes, I suppose, an inertia within the organisation, but also for the people out there that were saying, hold on, and it's like putting the brakes on slightly and then trying to move on again. People of the Isle of Wight want things to be moving forward, you know, at a pace. And I'm not saying quickly or anything like that, but at a pace. So I agree with Joe.
Okay, I'm going to bring in Councillor Paul Brady.
I just think, you know, when I saw this paper, I got any great for getting on with this much quicker than we do with the Director of Adult Social Care, which took 18 months.
Wow.
But then, as Joe said, even 6 months is too long a time. So I'm supportive of getting on with this. The one question I've got, I suppose, with the Director of Adult Social Care, we had one applicant.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't. We had two. At the last minute, another one suddenly appeared out of the woodwork, which was a very credible candidate. I thought, reading the CV, then that person had dropped out. So I'd like assurances this time that we're not going to have the debacle of last time, where a second applicant appears 2 or 3 days before the meeting, and then we're told, let's ignore that one and carry on as normal.
Yeah.
So I think we need to make sure this time when we advertise the role, we do actually make sure all applicants do get through to the committee.
Yeah. I think it was explained why that happened, wasn't it? Somebody knew it happened and put something on human error.
As long
but
as we learn from it this time, and
yeah.
this is important. This is the chief executive, this is the top person on the Isle of Wight.
It is,
we can't afford to make the same clerical error, whatever we call it. Well, the mistakes do happen, I get that. We can't afford to have that happening again.
Okay, I agree. Well, I think we all agree. I don't think that's any issue. Gosh, isn't it nice? This is the one committee where we all agree. Is there anything else that I'll bring that point forward, Joe, about why does it take so long to recruit, and if that's an organisational issue.
I'll take that away as well.
Yeah.
And just to reaffirm that there is dedicated resource now on this particular recruitment, but appreciating what you said about.
We learn from it. That's the best way of learning, isn't it?
Yeah. Susie, and then Joe.
Thank you. So, could looking at the process and why it has taken so long, although I appreciate this time it's been much quicker, can that be an agenda item for a future meeting, perhaps, or is there a report or something that could be brought back to us?
Ian?
Can we take that away as an action point? And I think that Sharon's quite rightly said that she would, and then we can bring that back as an action point from the minutes of this meeting to the next meeting.
Yeah, I can give you an update at the next meeting.
Absolutely, and then we can, if we feel that we need to work on it, let's work on it.
Yeah, because Wendy's been in post 5 months, hasn't she?
Yeah.
So yeah, okay.
Joe,
sorry,
just a slightly related point from the experience of recruiting the Director of Adult Services.
Yeah.
Putting to one side any errors that took place anyway, there seemed to be very little external interest. And if we could do all we can in this recruitment to generate as much interest as possible, just because clearly more it's a healthier position to be in to have more applicants rather than less. And I think last time we didn't necessarily have the opportunity to scrutinise how it had been advertised, but I think the summary that was given to us was clearly satisfied the committee that the normal process had taken place, that external notices had been put out on appropriate platforms. But I think if there are likely to be any issues about getting a decent number of applications, because I think the environment's tough anyway, isn't it? What can we do to mitigate against that and try and go perhaps a bit above and beyond what we would normally do in order to invite applications? If that means extending the application period a little bit, so be it. If it means trying different platforms that we advertise on, so be it. It's more of an encouragement rather than wanting to see anything prescriptive, because I don't know the process particularly well. But as much as we can do, let's do it.
Yeah, I think actually somewhere in here, Joe, I'm certain I read it yesterday, that it does actually list all the different places where we advertise the jobs, somewhere in the paperwork. I've definitely read it yesterday.
Perhaps could I turn it into a question? Do we anticipate challenges? I mean, am I right that the environment's a bit tough at the moment at this type of recruitment?
Yes, I believe so. And what we're anticipating on doing this time is to advertise in the MJ and the Guardian, which is what we also did for the Director of Adult Social Care.
Yeah. Susie, did you want to come in, or was it?
I did, but
Ian?
I think Jonathan wanted to come in, didn't he, last week? No?
No?
No, well, I would. Thank you very much indeed.
Claire's in, is she? Yeah.
So do we need to use our mics?
Oh, yeah.
You
Except
can
I don't know.
try.
Mine's still flashing. Yours working, Joe?
She still might not be able to
Yours
hear
is
you.
fine.
Everything's just gone.
No.
It was all working an hour ago.
Yeah. It's because it's just
It's me.
two
It's
cords.
me.
I'll leave the
Every
mic
time I
on.
do a
I'll
meeting.
leave them, then that's fine.
No, I'm not
I followed
worried.
them all out.
Claire, can you
She
let us know
probably-
you can hear us?
She might not be able to because I wasn't.
Don't
able
worry.
to-
Okay. Ian.
I just want to point out that two things. One, that I don't like extensions. If a deadline's a deadline, then so be it. And that's it. So I would not like to think that, okay, yes, we're going to extend it because we've got three candidates. So I think if we've got three candidates, we've got three candidates, and that's the cut-off date. To extend it to see if you get 5 or 6. As an organisation, we look a bit limp if we do that. We should be more tight on that and say, okay, the time limit's the time limit and that is it. We advertise, as Sharon's just said, within those areas. If anyone's got anything else to add to that, then speak now. Because we need to work to that framework, it's a tight framework. We need to work to that to actually prove that we're pretty solid in the way that we're going forward. I think that's the one thing. The other thing is to just point out that throughout time, and I've been here quite a while now, every time we advertise, well not every time, but almost every time we advertise for a senior post, we end up with the number of applicants or would-be candidates whittled down by themselves.
Yeah.
One of the been in the previous administration where it's happened. It's just one of those things. Let's hope it doesn't this time. Let's hope we get a good field, a good quality. But as I say, as I see it, we don't want to prostitute ourselves with regards to extending time limits, and likewise we should actually look and say, okay, let's advertise where we usually advertise, but also a little bit further afield if we can. Thank you.
So did you?
I'm sorry, I did read the papers, but I can't find what I'm looking for now. What is the deadline? How long is the period?
We can be flexible with it, so I think this is the point to decide.
This might be when
So,
those
yeah, so I think at the moment we would be looking at 4 weeks, advertising for 4 weeks. But if you think, and I agree with Councillor Stevens, that we shouldn't be putting it in for 4 weeks and then deciding to extend it. If you want to do it for a longer period of time, I think now would be the time to decide, and we can work that time frame around it.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I mean, the answer is I don't really know because this isn't my field, obviously, recruitment, whether 4 weeks is sensible. Sort of in your hands, if 4 weeks is the norm, but it hasn't tended to generate numbers and you think that might be beneficial to extend to 6 weeks, that's certainly something I would be supportive of. Or 2 months, I don't know. But I think based on previous experience seems to be that we struggle to generate external applicants. Why don't we look to try and have a slightly longer period this time, and particularly the importance of the job as well. But if your advice is it's not going to make any difference, then clearly there's no point.
Obviously, we're looking to put the advert out at the end of the month, so it's not sort of just within the holidays. It would go through September, but quite happy to extend it, and not extend it afterwards, but extend it now. Decide now that it's 6 weeks, and only time will tell whether that extension helps or not.
I mean, I think given we've had challenges, it just feels prudent to extend it so we can say, look, we built that in, we built an extension in from the start because we recognise there may be challenges to getting enough interest.
Ian?
I think there will be challenges. I think that this time of the year, it's coming into budget setting season, and some of the chief execs that are in post at this moment in time might probably be interested in transferring to the Isle of Wight and taking up the challenge with the Isle of Wight Council. Might find that they're forward pushing for their their situation with budget. I don't know whether that will have a bearing or not, but I think knowing what we do know, that 4 weeks tends not to bring forward the number of quality applicants. Quite possibly, an extension might be better. I'm open to discussion on this, because sometimes I just wish that we could get it over and done with and sorted, but we really need to look at the candidates and the situation on the best of their constantly on.
Okay, Jonathan, then Paul. Just got the microphone stuff. We've decided they're playing up.
Everything is.
JB.
All I was going to say is, if you're extending the period, what are you doing with that extra 2 weeks? Obviously, I'd say if we were thinking of putting this out in mid-August, then we'd say yes, extend, because people are away. We're in the traditional holiday period. But if we're putting this out in September, pretty much everyone is back behind their desk. What does the extra 2 weeks actually achieve, unless you are putting out fresh adverts during that period, putting out different adverts in different places and using that time? Otherwise, people who are interested in such a post, I'd suggest would be reading it and responding and noting that the final period. What does 2 weeks, an extra 2 weeks gain you in these circumstances, unless you're actually carrying out some further recruitment activity?
Paul?
Well, this is worrying. I actually totally agree with Jonathan.
That's what I said. We've got a love fest going on
I wish
here.
the recording was
Woo,
working.
woo, yeah,
This
I know.
one is. This one is.
The sort of people that we may attract externally, if we get external applicants, there'll be people that are looking for these types of roles across big parts of the country.
Yeah.
And if we get the perfect applicants coming forward externally, and we mess around and dilly-dally and extend, that person may get appointed into No, well, so we need to get them on board. If September is the 4 weeks in September, let's get on and do it. We wouldn't want to miss out on a perfect candidate if that one comes forward. So I agree. I don't think the extra 2 weeks would add any value.
Well, I mean, I assume Councillor Bacon's posing a rhetorical question. I mean, presumably the council could undertake extra activity or re-advertise or resend out notices. I mean, I don't know how these platforms work. I mean, we're councillors, we're not here to do it. But if those extra weeks, I mean, it would give someone an opportunity to maybe see an advert they hadn't seen before. It would give them a little more time to prepare. I don't know whether a month is not enough time for such a big job to prepare for it. If you missed it in week 1, picked it up in week 2. I just feel that anything we can, because we haven't looked at why we get so few external applications, we are slightly stabbing into the dark as to how to mitigate from a problem that might be just round the corner. And extending time seems to be a fairly routine possibility. I'm not wedded to it. But is there anything else we can do to try and make sure that we're not lacking?
I'm going to bring Judy in to possibly answer, and then I'll come back through. Judy?
Some of the things we've thought about were having a microsite, which we get as an organisation. We've had discussions with to look at how they would take this on, and it would be in a communication marketing specialist agency. Obviously, there's a cost implication for that, but that could work if you wanted to go down that avenue. The alternative is, I think that you've had some communications from internal comms about doing a video in an iconic setting for the island. I think that came through this week. Yeah, I think they actually asked if you were available for different times this week. Yeah, that came through this week.
Oh, right.
I think I saw it yesterday. Was it yesterday?
It depends whether... I
there's
certainly
two
haven't had
options.
anything.
Yeah, there's internal comms, or there's an external agency, which obviously is going to cost more. It could get out there more. It may be worth considering, and I have got the costs for that if necessary.
I mean, I think just a general position that I take is that we should be prepared to do more than we would normally do on this occasion.
Okay. Susie?
So how about, Councillor Bacon saying what good would the extra 2 weeks be, but how about if we have a 6-week period, and then we have a look at week 3 or 4 and see where we're up to, is there any possibility, any movement within that to then think, okay, we've only got 1 or 2, can we then look at going out to different media channels, or will it not work like that?
Well, sorry.
Legally, where does that leave
I'd be
us?
cautious about doing
Yeah.
that because
Yeah.
people might be going off on holiday in September and think, well, I'll do that when I come back. I've seen it in the MJ, and I'll have a think about it and I'll come back to it.
Yeah.
So I think once we've set the end date, that's the end date that we need to go
Oh, no,
for.
I didn't mean change the end date. I meant within having set 6 weeks, within that period, if we're keeping an eye on it, could we then think we need to take out an extra advert or try and get it
So
out more?
up the recruitment activity within that period.
Absolutely, I think anything
That's
can be
what I
done within
mentioned.
that
Sorry.
longer period of time. The other thing I was going to possibly suggest is if you wanted to go for the microsite option, you could decide to not have the adverts going out in August, to spend a bit of time front loading it with what we want to be doing, so that you're all happy with that, and then starting the recruitment, say, I don't know, the end of the first week of September, just giving us a little bit of extra time to work on that.
Jonathan,
Uh,
you've forgotten what you were going to say.
sorry.
Easily done in this heat.
No, I was going to say I'm not wedded particularly to one view or the other. I do think that if you set a month it is. Sorry, I've lost my train of thought slightly.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
John, a genuine question. I mean, does it, do you have concern that we may not get sufficient interest? I mean, you've been around a while.
Yeah, I mean, I've been through this process once before, and I think we ended up interviewing 2, and that was after I think a full and pretty extensive recruitment process. I don't think there was much criticism of the process at the time, and I think the market is tighter now than it was then. So, as I say, if there's something to be gained from the extra time, fine, let's do it. But if people see an advert, they see the closing date. Unless there's a publication that we want to hit that doesn't come out until 3 or 4 weeks into the process, there's some knowledge like that. Also, so I remember the point now, and it would help if, unfortunately, Claire's not here. I'm sure she could comment on it. It would be useful to know in that previous process, or indeed other similar processes, when the applications came in, because I suspect from other processes I've been involved in, they come in the last week, in the last few days. Do you get a true picture of how it's going 3 weeks into a 6-week process? I think people tend to say, right, applications due on the 20th of September, I'll set aside from 15th and 16th to do it. And again, unless there's something specific that's time dependent we get from that extra time, I'm not sure whether it'll give us. I'd have thought we're more likely to be in a position, if we get the poor level of application, we do a fresh round of adverts, close the first process and start a second process.
Yeah.
And that sounds like quite a good argument for using any additional time to front load a plan, and then have a month, rather than doing it 6 weeks with no particular plan.
Yeah.
Maybe 6 weeks from today, effectively is the end of September, so yeah, we'd be
But we
allow
wait
ourselves
that-
time to get it right now, to do the full 4 weeks of September.
I don't think anyone's suggesting it's the advert's going to appear tomorrow.
No,
I'd have
September's good.
thought what is
Yeah.
being suggested is the advert would appear after the bank holiday.
Yes, absolutely.
So there's a bit of thinking time, and then you
Yeah.
hit the September return.
We
and
could
that's your
always
full
meet in the
period.
road, dears, couldn't we, and do 5 weeks? Not 6, not 4. Let's do a 5-week consultation. I'm just saying.
It's better than the extra week.
Yeah, I mean, but
Shuts me up and it shuts him up.
yeah. I mean, I'm only, it's all about compromise, isn't it? But I mean, I'm not. I'm just going back to the monitoring officers. We had quite a few people apply for that. I think originally there was something like 15 originally applied, monitoring officer job. But like you say, I don't know which one of you said, they drop off naturally. I think it was you, Paul. Where you lose them, where they go to their people and say, well, actually, I've got an interview. They go, well, all right, we'll offer you more money, or we'll change your, so that's the bargaining power, and that's where we lost some of the people
So
the
if
last
we
time.
run it for the day after the bank holiday, right through to the end of the calendar month in September,
Yeah,
it's virtually
that is virtually 5
weeks anyway.
Exactly. And that's quite a nice deadline, isn't it? Almost 1st of September to the end of September, and then that is, I think that's quite tidy, because then they know they've got till that end of September period to get the applications in. Ian?
Quite right, Leader, because if you look at the way that giving in notice their present employment, if they're moving over here, then they've got to give a 3 month period.
Yeah.
What we don't want to do is extend it too much past that, which made me start to think when I was backing Joe earlier, that we'll end up, them coming into sitting on the budget
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
with no experience of what's going on.
Yeah, that's right, because it would be. It would be right on budget.
End of January, starting of February.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So we're all agreed. It goes out the 1st of September, and a closing date is the end of September, whatever date that is. 30 days has September. You're quite right. And then we start, I presume, sifting through and applications and everything. Literally, the following day. I mean, as much as can be. I think it's really important that we're straight on it. Like Ian said, it's coming in around budget time that people would have to be in, which is already, critical at the moment, isn't it? Jonathan? Oh no, devil's advocate, what?
I'm just thinking that publications, we refer to obviously the Guardian is the Guardian, but the MJ, what's its publication date?
I haven't got those to hand, but I can find those.
Because if it comes out on the
Yeah, we missed the date, is that what you're
27th
saying?
September, of August, that's the one we want to hear.
Yeah, can we check that?
Yeah.
Make sure if we do that as soon as. Is there any other deadlines like that we'd have to meet that we're
Well, it all
advertising?
depends on the publications.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is there? But where else we advertise?
I'll flag a concern if our proposed timescale doesn't meet those dates.
Yeah.
Can I just check as well then, are we saying that we do want to investigate this microsite? It's a company that Children's Services have already procured. As I say, there is a cost implication to it, but it has a Careers Hub microsite, a lifestyle element, production of what makes the Isle of Wight Council great video, and the support with a targeted LinkedIn campaign for the chief exec role. So but it will be more expensive than our internal comms team working through it.
Do we know roughly what the cost is
It's on here, isn't it?
I think it was about
What its
7,500.
reach is.
and what its reach is? Yeah, who would know where to find
It's a
it
news site.
and how to find it even? 'Cause that is a bit rubbish, everyone can have a website, but if nobody knows how to access and where it is, that's
I've
money
got a lot
down the
of
drain,
detail
isn't
here,
it?
but it's a matter of how much you want me to go through now.
Yeah.
I do have the total cost, if you want that here.
Are we permitted to give that out with the press?
Why not?
Yeah.
I don't know.
We're going to be, you'll be,
I've
you'll be
no
home drawn-
idea.
you'll be drawn and quartered anyway.
You would what? So you'd ask
Press want to
anyway.
know.
Press want to know anyway. Okay then, Judy.
Well, I would say we haven't made a decision yet.
So the total cost would be £11,700,
Nah, that's a lot of money.
inclusive of that.
Unless there's some proof of what it will actually achieve.
Yeah, I'd like to see their track record of what they've actually achieved.
I'm happy to circulate this document round. if
Yeah.
it's
Okay.
agreed.
Yeah. Let's have a look. But do we have to make a decision on that now as a committee?
I think if we're agreeing that we're going to advert, it's a matter of us deciding how best to do that to procure the best candidate. So I would say that as long as you're agreeing to go to advert in a time frame,
Yeah.
then we can decide how you want to do that.
the only comment I'd make to that, Valley, obviously it's very hard to make a judgment on a figure without knowing
Yes.
what reach it would have. I mean, that figure sounds like a lot of money, but bearing in mind the salary of this person and that we would hope they might be here for some years, that figure obviously is therefore a reasonably smaller percentage as compared to another sort of recruitment. But there's no point in spending that money if the reach is going to be negligible.
There are better known advertising strands where you could know what your reach is for that amount of money.
You said it's been procured by Children's Services,
Yes,
been used by Children's
They're already
Services.
using the same company, I believe.
So it's got a degree of credibility insofar as the council's already using it.
We haven't asked how successful it is yet. We're using it.
I just don't feel we have enough information here to make a
No,
decision.
I
This-
don't, no. I think, can we all be sent the document so that we can do a little bit of research into it? And I think that we could probably make a decision as we can have a Zoom meeting or something, a meeting just to convene and find that information once we've got it. And then that we can, Judy, we can then give you a better direction on it if we all do a Teams meeting or something just once we've had a chance to look at the document. What day is it today? Tuesday. So hopefully by Friday perhaps we can have a quick Teams meeting just to go through some bits and try and move forward. Okay? Okay, yeah? Because it's going to be really hot on Friday, even hotter than today. Okay. So, the recommendation, if there are no further questions, is that the committee authorise proceedings to start the recruitment process for the appointment of a permanent Chief Exec and Head of Paid Service in accordance with the job description and person specification as appended to this report. Are we all happy that that's what we do? We go ahead?
Yeah.
Yeah? Jonathan?
Yep.
Is that, it's a yes, not a question. Okay. Joe? Deputy?
Yeah, I mean, it depends the status of this decision, bearing in mind there's still questions to be confirmed, possibly on Zoom. What status does that, that recommendation is basically a green light to recruit, isn't it?
It is a green light to recruit. The only thing that we will be doing on Zoom is the way we advertise. So we know that it'll be already in the Guardian and the MOJ. We know that. That's a given, because that's where most of these type of people will be looking for jobs. What we will need to decide is, once we've seen about this website, we've done our own little bit of work, whether or not we choose to go through that route for recruitment too. So I don't see that, because we've already agreed that it's going to go in the Guardian and that it will go into MOJ and whatever other means anyway. So it's just agreeing that we go ahead. You said at the start that, why does it take so long? Well, this is the start of the process. If we delay again now and not make this decision, we're another month down the line before we can call another meeting to recruit, and then it really is a horrible time, because it literally will be, February, March, when they will be in place, which is not a good time for them to move over. So.
But I'm just one vote on this committee, but I do have a problem in that this whole date for this meeting, we were just told, those on this committee, there will be a date. This week, it was a couple of weeks ago, who's available and who's not. And when I responded to say I'm not available, the answer was, well, someone can sub for you. And I had to lobby hard, not knowing what was even on the agenda, to get this meeting moved to a time that I could do. It just does not seem to be a very open process on recruiting the most important person on the council. We haven't looked at salary in any detail, hasn't even been mentioned. We haven't discussed job description at all. It's not a criticism of this committee today particularly. I just don't understand why this meeting was ever convened without us being told what was going to be on the agenda until a date was found. And then the agenda, I don't think we have enough information here. I don't think we have enough information. We don't have the people who can provide the answers at the moment to make a decision. You may disagree with me. I don't think I can support recommendation 3 on reflection.
Okay. where the salary and everything is all in the papers, as is the job description, very thorough. In actual fact, I think I'd be put off from the first paragraph, let alone going right the way through all of that job description. I mean, seriously, it's an awful lot. It's all in those papers. Like you, there was, you know, the date came out, what dates are you available? I didn't know what it was for, but we're a committee that meets up. And to deal with these things, so I just fitted in to deal with everything.
This isn't a comment on you. It worries me seriously that the leader of the council didn't know why they were being asked. It's not a comment on you at all. That does worry me when the agenda item is recruitment of the highest paid and most important person who works for the council.
Yeah.
And yeah, I can see the salary, 138,000. I have no idea how that compares. The information is not here and presented in context. How that compares to equivalent roles on the mainland and whether that's going to be attractive to someone. Maybe the salary is not high enough. Maybe it's too high. I don't feel I've got the information in front of me to make
it does say in there. It's established at a spot salary, which currently stands at that, excluding the cost of, and it says it was determined through market testing, national negotiated payment. So it is actually all in the paper. What I would say is I didn't know the detail of anything, Joe, until this come out, because that's when you know, I knew that we were going to try to go to recruitment. We didn't really want to hang around, like you said. We wait too long, but I didn't know the detail of this until the papers come through, and then I get them the same as you do. That's what happens. They can't come out any earlier because they're public documents, so it's not like I get them as a sneak preview. Paul?
Just a few quick points. I think it doesn't actually say in the paper how to advertise. It just says you can advertise, you know, through the correct. Appropriate advertising. It doesn't say where we're going to advertise.
Oh, I thought it did.
That's like when our decision is to go along with process point. I quite agree with Joe. The process hasn't completely, because we've got another thing chucked in the pot in the paper. You could go through, you know, this web link, whatever it's called. That should have been in the paper. And I accept that you didn't see the paper before we did, Laura.
No.
But your name is on the paper.
Yeah.
And therefore, you should have seen the paper before we saw it, because your name's on the paper. But this is, I'm happy to give a green light to get on with the process, but the process is a little bit questionable because if something else may be useful to us has come out. Might be a good idea, might not be, we don't know.
I think that's the detail, and I'm not sure that would normally go in the paper, but I'm happy to be corrected. I think it's the detail behind the scenes, but I'm quite happy from my point of view for you to be involved in making that decision, because there obviously is a cost behind it. Equally, we do have some data about what other councils are paying, and if you want to see that, I'm happy to share that too.
Thank you. Yeah.
Jonathan?
Wasn't going to say anything, but wasn't this meeting postponed because the purpose of it was queried by some people and we abandoned an earlier date?
That was non-availability, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I can only speak for myself. I queried it because I wasn't available previously, so I wasn't told what it was about. I found it very, very strange that I was told, don't worry if you can't make it, someone else can sub for you. And I had to lobby for it to be moved, not knowing what was going to be in it, not knowing what the purpose of the meeting was. And I make this a very open point in this meeting, that I think that's not a sensible way for the council to be proceeding with constituting committees.
Okay. Ian.
Just want to touch on your position here, Laura. I think people have looked at this, saw your name on the paper, but in fairness to the officers, they've tried to make sure that each one of us that comes to this meeting doesn't put any, in inverted commas, political slant on this. I think that is why you're the chair and Joe's vice chair. And the thing is to keep the members out of it. Let's sit down and talk about what we've got in front of us. I think some of it really, because of the nature of it, should be in camera because of the costs and where we got the financial figures from, because that has a bearing on what we're offering. I think that once we've made a decision, but of course it's correct that the press and the media and the general public should know about it. But whilst we're deciding these things and moving things forward, I think sometimes it's best to have a meeting in camera to come out with what we've agreed on and where we've got the information from, so that we can responsibly furnish the information to the media. What I would say is that I can understand why you've been kept similar to myself and every other member of the committee with this, Laura, because quite honestly I think that the officers involved have made sure that everything's above board and there's no political slant or persuasion in any direction. I think that's all to the good.
Yeah, I was thinking that about the post for the adult social care. I mean, I didn't see papers sort of before there was no big thing about that coming out, you know, because you've got to remain completely neutral in this, and you've got to oversee it as it arrives. It would be unfair for me to be given a lot of information prior. But anyway, so we have a recommendation, which is to authorise. So the committee authorises proceeding to start the recruitment process for the appointment of a chief exec in accordance with the job description and person specification as appended to this report. So that is the recommendation. Jonathan's going to second it. Ian's going to third it for whatever reason. And so yeah, if we could have a show of hands, please. How you feel? Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in favour. Against or abstention? Joe's going to abstain. So that is it. Thank you all very much for your time. Good luck, girls, with all of that, because it's a big old post, isn't it? It really is. So yeah, let's hope we get some good.
You haven't finished the meeting yet, have you?
Oh, have I not? Oh, sorry.
You've got members'
public
questions. We haven't had any.
Members, any?
We haven't
We
had
have
any.
received no members' questions, so I can go. End of meeting.